Welcome to Beyond the Work, Tales in Multifamily Maintenance, an audio and video podcast brought to you and powered by the Multifamily Media Network. My name is Chris Caramonica, and I am your host. As a 15-year veteran of the apartment industry, I feel like I have done and seen it all. Don't we all feel that way? And then we see or hear something else. I have stories to tell, and the desire to hear and tell others' stories. As a multiple committee member with NAA, a CAMT advisory board member, and a national presenter and educator, I have met and worked with so many people in our great industry at all levels. This is not a how-to podcast. It is a how-did podcast. We are going to explore the how-did tales in multifamily. How did we do it? How did we learn from it? How did we grow? How did we decide not to do it again? Join me as we go beyond the work.
Marcy French, welcome to Beyond the Work. I'm so happy to have you today. So for my audience who doesn't know you, which is probably not very many people in our industry, but thank you for coming here today. And I want to give you a second. Introduce yourself. Tell me and the audience a little bit about yourself.
Well, let's see. Okay. I'm so excited to be here, Chris. Like, you're one of my favorite people ever. And I've actually been just like pining away till everybody. So let's see about myself. Oh, Marcy French. I do a few things. Let's see. I've been in the industry, the multifamily industry, because we're here about multifamily, about 30 years and some change. It's like the only professional career I've had for the most part, like, and most people fell into it. Worked for a really small company called HRG Asset Management as the vice president of asset management.
How small is HRG?
So we have 3 properties in the Midwest, and they are in 3 different states because God forbid it be easy and not all one stop. So 3 properties, like 860, I think it's 2 units. So we're in 3 different markets. Been with that company in different forms for the last 6 years and some change. And I also have my own company with the blessing, I feel like that's important to say, with the blessing of my boss at HRG. I have French's Leadership Solutions. I'm the chief facilitator, also the only employee there, and do lots of different things there. Probably living more of my passionate piece over there, but it's the multifamily industry. I'm passionate about all of it.
Right.
So that's who I am. That's what I do.
So, I mean, there's so many things that I want to and could talk to you about today, but the asset management piece was very interesting to me. So I want to talk a little bit about, I work with a lot of asset managers. I'm in a fee managed environment. My company is an owner operator. But I have worked with a very long list of asset managers for various organizations. And I'm going to be quite honest with you and my audience. I have no idea what an asset manager truly does. So for me, my own education and the education of the audience, what do you do as an asset manager, and what do you see as the asset manager's main role in multifamily?
If you know me and my evolution into this role, that is the most loaded question I've ever been asked in my entire career. So, wow. So, okay, here's the truth about this, Chris. I am an asset manager a little bit by accident.
Okay.
I fell into it. What I know is that what I do as an asset manager, and I definitely network with other asset managers, and my boss who I work for now was my asset manager at a previous company. That is loaded because depending on what company you work for, the job description is so very, very different at each company and unique. So let me tell you about what I do and how I got here. Is that fair? Is that okay?
Please. Yeah.
So was in the operator management side up until it's been 3 years ago next month. 3 years ago, I made the shift, and it was because earlier in that year, January, my boss came to me. We had a whole management company, and we had, I think, 9 or 10 properties at one point in 5 different states. And COVID had happened, right? So 5 years ago was 2020. And we had 3 properties in Virginia that were just hot. Like, the interest rate hadn't yet changed. the delinquency was becoming an issue because the CARES Act was a problem. Virginia was a very conservative state on evictions. Like the state laws were more conservative than the federal. It was just a lot. But the market was so hot and people were looking for deals. And we discovered that they were getting some off market interest for a price that would probably have been projected 5 or 6 more years down the road. So you could earn what you were going to earn 5 years from now with no risk if you do it right now. And who knew what COVID was going to bring or not bring. So they called me in the January and they said, listen, we're going to sell those properties. And we had already sold 2 other properties and that was going to leave 3 properties. We're going to sell them all. And I had a whole corporate team. I had a compliance division. I had an operating division. I had 2 regionals. And then we had all the on-site team. And oh my gosh, and how dare I forget a maintenance and procurement person who. So we're going to sell everything except these 3 properties. I can do the math, right? We don't need people.
Don't need all that back office. Yeah.
Yep. I don't, I'm going to be looking for a job. Okay, no problem. So it was very generous, stay bonuses, all of that. But he says to me, you're going to stay. You can stay. Now, he knew about me, something about me, which is that I love the people in our industry. And one of the things that I'm most passionate about is the development and coaching and mentoring of people in our industry. So having a team underneath me wasn't about titles and ego. It was about the ability to impact people coming up in their career. And you're taking away my entire team and you're taking away my purpose and my impact. And I was devastated. And I know he thought I would probably not want the position. So he knew me well enough to say, I've got an idea for you. 3 properties. And I said, listen, I can't take a pay cut as well as, you don't really need me. I worked for you as an asset manager.
Right.
So you can do this job and not pay my salary. And I'm a 1-person adult in my household, right? My kids are grown, but whatever. He said, you're going to get to keep your deal, right? Whatever you have going. We're going to hire a 3rd-party management company. I want you to oversee the management company in that process. I expect a lot from you because you know management. So you know where they hide the dead bodies, you know where they hide the things.
We'll get into that.
Yeah. So you know all that stuff. So I'm going to count on you to find those things and hold them accountable. And it's not a full-time job. It's 3 properties. And you have a whole management company. Some weeks it could be 5 hours. Some weeks it could be 82 hours. Lots of that. But whatever time you have, I don't care. Do what you want with it. And as a matter of fact, I know you love training and facilitating and coaching and mentoring and all the things and speaking. Go start your own company. So he helped me do my articles of organization.
Really?
He gave me the foundation, told me what I needed to do, the basics on starting a company. I started my own company, French's Leadership Solutions, and then I'm an asset manager, some weeks 5 hours and some weeks 50 million hours.
I have known you for 5 years. I never knew that. That's amazing that you worked for a leader that identified not only your strengths, and really probably his need to have you working for him, but also your desire to keep doing what you were doing in another way. And I think that's something that's not recognized enough by leaders. So it's great that you have somebody like that in your world, in your sphere.
I feel fortunate and lucky. And if I had $1 for every time somebody asked me, how did you get that deal? That alone would be a payroll for the year because I really did fall into it. And the truth of the matter is the skill set I have isn't his skill set, right? He doesn't enjoy, I don't think he'd care if I said this, and I don't think he follows me on any of the socials, but I think he doesn't truly enjoy the peopling, the networking and the connections of the humans as much as I do. And that's putting it, mildly. But what he's amazing at is what I've learned. It's the details of the financials that I thought I knew. I thought I knew so much. And I've learned an exorbitant amount of detail that we don't learn in operations. So
You have a very robust history. You just celebrated just a couple of months ago, if I'm not mistaken, 30 years walking. You're a unicorn of people that I talk to because you didn't fall into it. You started in it. Would that be an accurate statement?
I think they're both accurate. I started and fell in. I was just at home when actually I'd gone to work. I was a receptionist for a construction slash management slash, right? They did all these things. And I was 19 and I was mouthy. I know that's a big shocker to your
Shocked.
listeners. Real mouthy, real headstrong. And me and the boss of that company got into a knockdown drag out. It was a real hostile job. They actually closed the doors with a class action lawsuit probably 6 months later. But we got into a big fight, decided we should probably not work together anymore. I went home and pulled out the newspaper and looked through the help wanted ads. And there was a leasing position open at the community I lived at. And I thought, I've shown a couple of homes and apartments at the company I work at. I can do that. I went into the office and the rest is history.
So I've known you, like I said, a little over 5 years. And I'm going to tell you something that maybe not a lot of people know about me is I listen to my horoscope or read my horoscope literally every morning. We have a local radio show. So I have a question for you. It's coming. You might know what it is. But every morning I'm an early riser. I'm in the car. My local New York radio station has a morning show, and at 6:20 every morning, like clockwork, 5 days a week, they read the horoscopes. And I always am I'm getting in my car at like 6:18 so I can get the car turned on and no joke, not miss my horoscope. And it's a weird thing. I'm not, crunchy granola, kind of person, but like it is part of my routine. So
I love that about you.
before I ask you the question, which I think what do you think my sign is?
Oh,
Because you've known me for a few years.
and I don't know when your birthday is. So let me go off of what. Okay. So I think you are either an Aquarius or I don't know. I feel like maybe mm, I don't know. I feel like Aquarius.
You're really, really close. I'm a Capricorn. So,
I wasn't gonna say it.
You're really, really close. And I know that you are a Leo. But you have something special coming up because we just entered into Leo and a little birdie told me something. So you have some big milestone coming up, I think. What's your big milestone coming up?
I'm turning 50. And I think by the time this airs, I will be 50. And I just am embracing it and loving it and excited about it. And what's making it really fun? I don't know if we follow each other on social media outside of LinkedIn. We should, by the way, because we're like little side besties. Kim Hurd, which I know you had Kim Hurd on recently.
Yes, I did. And you got a nice shout out.
Yeah, listen, we get into all sorts of trouble. People like, you got to sit on that side of the room, you got to sit on that side of the room. We just forever. But it compartmentalized, it was like Kim and Marcy. We don't even have our own name anymore. So she organized this thing with my daughter, and I'm getting packages in the mail every single day. Yesterday, I got 6. And I've been trying to record them each day so that I can thank people. And then it's a surprise. It's like they get to open the gift with me from whatever part of the country they're in, right? And so I open it and I discover who it's from in front of the camera, and then I post it. I post the authentic reaction to it. But some of my friends don't really love turning 50. I have several this year, but I love it. I just feel like you get a chance to go back through your life and think about all that you've accomplished, all that you've overcome. I'm who I am because of that story and that path. Wouldn't change it for the world. I wouldn't change even the bad things that have happened. The people I've met are incredible. The humans in this industry. I mean, I've spent more than half my life in this industry at this point. The most beautiful thing is the legacy. My own daughter is in the industry, which is one of my proudest things. She joined the military. She was a reservist for a while, and I didn't think I could be more proud of her than that. But then she has just taken all that she has learned through everything she's done, and now she's in our industry, and she's just killing it. So.
Well, the reason I brought up horoscopes and your age is because we do have something in common. We are we're both Gen X. And I've had the honor, and many people have seen you speak on generational workforce. The different generations in the workforce, how they interact, and you have, us in Gen X we're in the middle, right? We're in the middle of the 5 active working generations. We have a very different view. You have your daughter is Gen Z, right?
Yep.
My daughter is going to be Gen Alpha.
Okay.
She's just about to graduate high school this year. So she's about to get into the workforce, but you've seen quite a bit when it comes to the different generations. What is one of the things that I'm going to gear the question a little bit because you have such a large experience in the industry. What have you seen with maintenance professionals? And because the generational differences are very different from where I sit on the maintenance side of the fence as opposed to the operational leadership side of the fence. There's different needs out there. And if you can't speak to it, that's fine too. But I wanted to see if you had any thoughts on that.
Yeah, it's been hard. So I have a son as well. I feel like my daughter gets a lot of airtime because she's now in the industry. So I'm talking about the industry, but he's interested in as well, and also still finding himself. So my daughter is 27, my son's 20. And I was raised by a dad who he built his own house from the ground up. Like
Mm-hmm.
every detail of his house, he did it himself. The electrical, the plumbing, the carpentry, he like finished wood. It's like the level of detail is next level. So he says to my son, you should, if I had to go back, I'd be an electrician because the ability to still maybe work inside, it's not so the elements aren't so much. And my son's like, eh. So when he was here, he's now recently moved back to Colorado with their dad, but he was here and you want to help me put in the faucet? And he's like, eh. He has like no interest. And my sister and I being raised with no, I wasn't raised with my brother. We learned all that stuff
Right.
working with our hands. So I'm always proud that I can fix things. But what's interesting to me is that generation, so he's also Gen Z. I see that Gen Z and Gen Alpha aren't so interested in learning how to fix things or how, like, I used to tear things apart so I could understand how they work
Yeah.
to see if I could put them back together. I just don't feel, and I'm broad sweeping. It's a little stereotypical, but I
Yeah.
just have not seen the desire to do those things in that generation, and it's killing us
Yeah.
slowly.
Yeah. I've talked about it quite a bit. The millennials a little bit less, but definitely with Gen Z, everything is a lot more disposable. The phone breaks, you get a new phone. The car breaks, you get a new car.
Yep.
And we're seeing that with maintenance.
Yep.
And I'm sure you see it or hear it a little bit on the asset management side. It's like, my refrigerator broke, give me a new refrigerator. It's like, but it's a $10 part and we
Yes.
can have it fixed in an hour.
Yes.
So even our residents are causing a heavy amount of pressure on our on-site teams and our maintenance personnel. It's like, well, if it's broken, just give me a new one.
Just go get a new one. And as an asset manager, so now having my asset manager hat on, who has stake in these deals, right?
Yeah.
I have equity in these deals now. I look at a financial 100, like a 180 from how I used to look at it, because now I was teaching, I was a manager. I said, I can look at a T12 and I can tell you a story. So
Mhm.
go look at the replacement costs and the supply costs and watch the shift
Right.
in, I have one particular community where I just saw this recently. No replacements in appliances for 18 months, like just here and there a little bit. Now I've got 3 and 4 months. And I said, I know what's going on. We have a new maintenance supervisor. 100%. The stories and the numbers. So then I have to go, okay, team, I need you to push back. We need to get some training, right? But then training costs money. It's all of these catch 22s that go on. But we millennials are really the last generation and age group I'm seeing that know how to work with their hands, and depending on even where they're at, their desire.
Just depending on the scope. Yeah.
One of my communities just got a resignation from a maintenance supervisor that has been with us since we managed, because he got a job offer that's not going to require him to pull call as much. And he's got a new baby coming, I believe. And he wants to spend time with his family, and being on call and working that hard in 100-degree heat on ACs just doesn't, it's
Yeah,
not interesting.
it's not. And you're right. I can look at a T12 too and do the exact same thing. And I can literally pinpoint, I'll have operational leaders ask me like, well, why did our expenses go up? And I don't know, but I have really good guesses that are, pretty much dead on. It's like, oh, did we lose a tech? And they're like, yeah. And I was like, well, that was the technician that was actually fixing things. I don't need
Yes.
to know the guy's name. I don't need to know the guy's age. I don't need to know his years of experience. Um, and I just recently had a maintenance supervisor interview, and wonderful young lady who said to me, and I don't want to age her, but she was probably, in the Gen Z, maybe, late millennial, right? And the way that she eloquently spoke about like repairing things is just not something that I hear in interviews anymore. And it wasn't about impressing me for an interview. It was about I know how to take things apart. I know how to properly troubleshoot. And I will be the one that tells you if it needs to get replaced. And you're going to trust me because I've done all these things. I was so blown away. I'm not allowed to hire people on the spot. We have to do the whole thing and,
Yeah.
process and procedure and all that. But I was so blown away. I was like this close to being like, can you literally start tomorrow?
Yeah.
Can you start yesterday and work at like 6 of my sites? And do you want to train? And, much like, my brain works like yours, like, oh, you're great at something. Can you teach other people how to do that for me? Like right now?
Right now. And let me tell you something. I'm paying for them, because I have one particular gentleman where I hope he doesn't see this, but I will pay him anything he wants. Like, let me go. You want some of my pay? Like, because he holds the place together. He's doing things in house. He cares and he knows how to do things. And if he doesn't, he knows how to figure out how to do those things. And that is that's so rare anymore that, we're a lot of maintenance supervisors are making more than the property managers now.
Yes. And you brought up, I want to go back to something interesting you just said about, well, it costs to train people, but really at the end of the day, and I've done the analysis, my replacement costs far outweigh the cost it is to send somebody to a CAMT training class or an HD supply class, or even directly to a manufacturer like a GE or a Whirlpool or a Train for 3, 4, 5 days, put them up into a nice hotel, give them a per diem. I am going to make that money back exponentially and very quickly if they're willing and able to do that training. And I think that's a miss that, I feel like in my conversations that I've had with my counterparts in the industry and operational leaders, that's a huge miss. It's like, we can't spare them from the site. Well, look how much it's costing you to keep them at the site.
Exactly.
Get them off site, get them the training, the advancement that they need. And you know what? Pay them a couple more bucks, because at the end of the day, if they're spending, let's just say $10,000 a month on appliances, which I have seen at larger sites, I'm going to send somebody to training and the replacement cost drops down to maybe a $2,000 repair cost.
Exactly.
That's $8K a month. That's $96,000 a year, like that.
Here's the asset manager me. Okay, let's see how quick I can pull up a calculator. Okay, so you said 96,000, right?
Yeah.
On a 7, ooh, I went the wrong way. 96, 1, 2, 3. On a 7 capital rate, come to
Yep.
my caps class. That's 1.3, almost $1.4 million worth of value to the asset.
Right. That's the numbers but it's, and I'm giving real numbers. It's very easy for a property to be spending, especially an aged property that, appliances are being replaced at a very high rate. $10,000 is nothing. That's roughly 10 refrigerators. That's 15 stoves, And you can very easily be spending that kind of money. But if you just spent $5,000 to train somebody and paid them $2 more an hour, you invested $9,000 into a person, saved using my numbers, right? I'm still saving $87,000, and it's still adding the value.
And added so much value to the asset. It's the numbers don't lie.
Yeah, they really, really don't. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to talk to you, because that's how quickly, that's what I think a lot of people forget is that it's in our rush, our need to satisfy the residents, get things done quicker, get things done faster, theoretically get things cheaper, you're actually not. Because when you start talking about cap rate and when you start talking about the value of the property, you're increasing it.
Yeah.
By doing
And
these
listen,
small things.
my favorite F word is not what most people think it is. It's not 50. It's fiduciary.
Yeah.
I can't remember. I think it was with Betsy Cunningham for something, and now she knows that about me. Oh, it was we were doing some panels on Clubhouse back during COVID. I love the word fiduciary.
And I love that word as well, because I have, no matter what role I've been in an organization, whether I was a maintenance supervisor or I'm in a director role now, I have a fiduciary responsibility to the owners of that property. And sometimes I fail, but at the same time, if you give me the resources, I'll help you out. I'll make it worth it. And my favorite thing, and I know I have a couple of my asset managers that I work with listen to this. What I always say is, I'm the guy that is always coming to you telling you how much money I'm going to spend, but I'm also explaining why I'm doing it to save you money and increase your bottom line. I'm very rarely the guy that calls an asset manager and gets on a call and says, oh, I found you $100,000. It's usually, I just cost you $100,000.
Yeah, you're that guy for sure.
I am that guy. I get to deliver the bad news. I always know when I'm getting invited to a call that I'm typically not invited to, because it's like I have to deliver.
Yeah. I miss having that person, because now, so I get the bad news and then I have to filter and then I have to give it. So I have to hear it and give it. And it's never
fun.
Not my favorite part of the job, for sure.
So let's shift gears a little bit. You are very involved in the National Apartment Association. It's obviously where we met. How and when did you decide, at what point in your 30 years where you're like, I want to start volunteering my, in some cases free time, and actually a lot of cases free time, to give back to this industry? Do you remember what was your first?
Yeah, I had two pivotal moments. The first was at my local association. So I grew up in the Denver Apartment Association Metro Denver market, and I always like to say that's home. That's where they raised me, basically. And I worked for a company. I've been there. I worked there 9.5 years, and at some point in there wasn't enough growth to provide an opportunity for me to move up to the regional role. So I had the largest property in the portfolio, and I just always antsy for the next thing. So they allowed me to start volunteer teaching, and I started teaching what was then NALP, and then eventually CAM was the first two, and I just ate it up. So anytime they asked me to volunteer teach a designation, I just got all in it, loved it. From there, I had no idea the door would just swing wide open. So my 1 year while I was teaching, they had done a rewrite of NALP. And I don't know if it was when we switched to Calify. It might have still been NALP, but they asked me to teach the whole week instead of just a couple of modules, and so that they could audit the class and see how the flow of the new material went. So somebody from NAA came, they watched me from the back of the room for a portion of the week. And at the end of the week, they came up to me and they said, have you ever thought about getting involved at the national level? I think at this time I may had taken a different position. I was a regional manager, and I thought, oh, my company is never going to pay for me to go to anything. Right. And I'd been to one apartmentalized conference. It was EdCon back then, because it was in Denver, and I volunteered to go. And so basically, the long story short is they needed some diversity. They said at the leadership roles at NAA, there wasn't a lot of diversity at the committees and the boards and the things. And it was Maureen Lamb, the executive vice president of EI. And I didn't know who she was. I'd never heard her name. I didn't know anything about anybody at the national level. And I just said I couldn't do it. She said, "Oh, I'm going to get you a scholarship. Would you go then?" She got me a scholarship and I attended Leadership Lyceum. I had no idea what a big deal that was and what a big opportunity and honor. My AE covered all of my expenses because I had been giving back to the association
Right.
already. So I'd invested my time without even thinking about it. And they knew I would continue, and I did continue to invest my time. And from there, it just snowballed. I then took AFT or AIT back then with Doug and Rich and Sue, and then started teaching other designations, and just little by little by little just got more and more and more involved, and have enjoyed seeing the landscape of our industry change. When I started going to those things, I'm like, aha, I get it. I could count how many people looked like me. I remember folks like Josie Eatman and um, oh my gosh, Ariana Royster were the two that really immediately made me feel welcomed as people who looked like me and had leadership already in the industry. And so between those two, and then later Greg Sorbana took me right up under his wing and just introduced me to everybody in the world, because everybody in the world knows the mayor of NAA, which is Greg Sorbana. Um, and I've been fortunate. I've worked hard. I want to say, of course, I've worked hard, but also people have sponsored and said my name. And my mentor, Pat Hutchison, I worked for her at Legacy. She was the vice president, and she was on the board of EI and kind of ushered me in the right direction, knowing my skill set. And here I am.
And here you are. I have a similar journey. I was telling you before we got started, I was out with my mentor getting into the industry, who's now one of my best friends and co-hosts on another show that we do, is Paul Rhodes. And it was one of those things where we had the opportunity to deliver CAMT to my New York based team. We delivered CAMT over 6 weeks to 60 different team members, 65 team members, all through a workforce grant in New York. And this was when Paul was the lead educator for CAMT for NAAEI. So he was the official trainer at that point. So he just literally was in New York for 6 straight weeks. And I sat in on every single CAMT class. I took CAMT 3 times. I got to do it 3 times. Once officially, but the other, I would take the days off, but I was always sitting in the room. And we were talking about it just last night, and he was retelling the story, which was 2019. It was actually 6 years ago this week. And he tells his story, and he goes, you just turned to me and goes, "I want to do what you do. How do I do it?" And it has a nice warm place in my heart, because that's really, I got to watch him for 6 weeks, be a educator, his passion for the industry, his passion for maintenance. And I had all of that, and I didn't know what my outlet was. So very shortly after that, I took AFT that October with Sue, Doug, and Rich. Then obviously COVID hit, and I was in the COVID Leadership Lyceum class. I was in COVID year. But that's how it started for me. I didn't have the benefit. I worked in New York City, and the affiliate is not as strong in the New York City area. They don't do a lot of events. So I actually just walked in through the national level, and that's how you and I got to know each other, especially over the last 3 or 4 years with everything that you do for EI. And, I'd be remiss without mentioning the fact that what's your official title with EI currently?
So I have 2 situations. I don't know which one you're talking about.
You have situationships with EI right now.
Situationships with EI. You know what? That's not the best description. I'm going to use that from now on. I have a situationship with EI. I am the vice president of the EI board, and then I'm also on senior faculty as Sue took kind of a different role. There was an opening, and so I joined Rich and Doug on the senior faculty position as the senior faculty position.
Yep. So, it's been, you and I have sat on more committee meetings, more board meetings and task forces. And I think even task forces for task forces over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
In addition to being in each other's sessions and, watching each other present and,
They're gonna start talking about us. Me, they talk about Kim, they talk about you. Like every time I turn around, I'm like, Chris is stalking me. That's
but
what I just tell
that's
people.
but that's the thing though, is that you just if you just get involved, you find
Yeah.
your people, right?
Yes.
And whether that's at a local level or at a national level, or in some cases people are able to do both, um and be able to balance that. And it's one of the things that I try to preach a little bit to maintenance professionals, is that that's how easy it was for me to just say I want to be involved.
Just raise your hand.
That's all I wanted to do. Yes, I put in, once I got my foot in the door, I've put in the time and the effort and the work. But I think that a lot more people just need to do that. And if you just if we would have a lot more maintenance leaders and trainers and professionals, if more and more of them did that. And I've had people ask me the same question that I've asked Paul Rhodes all the 6 years ago. How do I do what you do? I've had people ask. And I have no problem sitting with them over coffee or a drink and saying, this is how I did it. But the nice thing about having folks like you on and Kim and all of my other friends and coworkers and volunteers that I work with is everybody's story is different. You can just find a path to get where you want to be.
Everybody's is unique and there's so much opportunity. I think two things you hit on. It's the maintenance side. I've found that so I've really plugged in. I live in Florida now, and I've really plugged in with the Florida Apartment Association and a bit with CFA, which is Southeast Florida, the local. So I've got the state level, the city level, and just hearing we're really good with the maintenance, I think, on CFA. But we in years past had done a survey to kind of discover what people are, what roles they're in that are in leadership, and we always find there is a gap on the maintenance side, and a little bit because they don't get the messaging, so that they don't know how to get involved. Let's be honest, in the office, we're gatekeeping a little bit because we don't want to be without our maintenance person for the day, right? But then when you allow your maintenance teams to flourish, one, you invest in them, but they invest back in our industry, and then we end up with the Chris Caramonicas and the Paul Rhodes of the industry, and we need them. And if we don't have that representation, we won't be able to continue to grow the maintenance in our industry. And then on the other side of that too, for me, like I'm part of the affinity group Melanin and Multifamily, and it's about representations. We can talk about maintenance. We can talk about the fact that I'm a woman of color. That when you show representation, as I'm vice president of the board, it tells people coming into the industry. I'll use my daughter because she's a leasing consultant, that she can go as far as she wants, whether it be as a vice president of a company or the president of a board. If you're maintenance, that if you give the work back like you do, you pour your heart and soul into the industry, that you can be at the national level, the local level, you can be an executive, you can do all the task forces, you can teach the next, like we can do it all, but we are responsible to show them and represent that it can be done.
Right. Which is why one of the many reasons why I like having these conversations, and I like presenting, and I like doing this podcast, because I'm hoping that it's getting out to people and the message is getting out there. And I think that it is. And I think we're seeing more and more maintenance professionals showing up in organizations. It was a very different landscape than it was 6 years ago. 6 years ago, I knew all of the maintenance folks that were involved with NAA. It's getting harder every year. And
Yes.
it was nice that, I helped, get one person came up to me last year, a regional, who's also been a previous guest on my show, Angie Drysdale from Willowbridge, came up to me last year at Apartmentalize. And she's like, how do I get involved? And I was literally, and you've been in this situation, the rolling suitcase, the Ubers are pulling up. And I was like, here's my card, call me next week, and since then, Angie has she's on several committees. She did a podcast with NAA. And so that's the kind of things that we all have to do for, the next, I don't want to say generation, but the next group that wants to break in, because somebody did it for us. I know Paul did it for me. I know you mentioned people like Ariana and, people that welcomed you and brought you in. So, keep it up, because Marcy, you and I are Gen X, but I know that you and I aren't going anywhere. So I'm sorry, you're stuck with me for a little while longer.
We're gonna be doing this for a minute. We didn't
Um,
plan really well for our retirements, Gen X. So I
yeah,
think you're gonna be working longer than the baby boomers at this point.
preach. No, what's going to happen is all the millennials are going to start retiring in about 10 years, and they're just going to leave us behind with Gen Z and Gen Alpha.
I feel like that is so true. I feel like the millennials are all going to be retiring at 50 and 55, and we're going to get left with these Gen Z folks. I think that's true.
Yeah.
Ah,
Yeah, that's, oh, well, we're not ending on a down note. I will never let that happen. So, we're getting close to time, but I do want to, you are so busy, you travel so much. Where can people find you? What do you have going on? And, what's next? I follow you on LinkedIn, not on other socials yet. I have some friending to do later.
yeah.
But, where can people find you next? What do you have going on with AFT or CAM or CALPS or CAPS? What are you teaching next and where?
Oh gosh. Okay. So what do I have? I don't even know. And forgive me, whoever I'm forgetting. Okay, I just finished at AGO. I did an emotional intelligence seminar that was so and like I had so much fun. So by the way, whenever I facilitate something, I learn something at the same time. So when I say it, it's about what I take away from it, which I also did for FAA. But I don't really, I'm going on vacation next. So my mind is so focused on vacation that I don't remember the next thing I have scheduled for training. But I can tell you AFT is coming in Philly in October. By the way, that class is sold out, but there's 2 classes for NAAEI. So if you are interested in AFT, there's one in May in Colorado Springs and then one in October in Houston. Go to the EI website and you can sign up for that. You can always find me if you are a person that identifies as Black in the industry. I'm always running around with the folks with Melanin and Multifamily, and you can reach out to me if you're interested in getting connected with that collective and that affinity group. There are others, but that's the one I'm participating in. And if you are interested in me speaking for you, I do a lot of things on emotional intelligence, mental health, DE&I, leadership for sure. Teach CAM, I teach CAPS. And you can find me frontofleadershipsolutions.com. I am on LinkedIn. Please don't come over on my private Facebook page. It's unhinged over there. I tell everybody. I have a bunch of people keep sending me Facebook requests. I'm like, listen, it's unhinged in that page. I have a public page. I have a public Instagram page, and it's so much safer there. Find me there.
Okay. All
There you
right.
go.
I can't, I hope I get to see how unhinged it is.
I mean, I feel like you're ready. I feel like you're ready for it, Chris.
All right. I appreciate that. So, as we wind out, Marcy, thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming on. I appreciate everything that you have done for our industry. You've been a friend to me and a mentor, and I've just really enjoy working with you, and being in your sphere is way fun. Just being in the room. So I appreciate you for that. But thank you for everything you do for so many people in our industry. You have 30 years of experience. Here's to another 30. Sorry, we have no retirement funds. And we're recording this just before your birthday. So I guess I get to wish you like a happy birthday and a belated birthday, because when this airs, it will be already your birthday. So thank you so much for joining me today on Beyond the Work. For my listeners and subscribers, thank you for tuning in. Please like, subscribe, share, send this out to your friends, because everybody needs a little Marcy French in their life. So Marcy, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining me today for Beyond the Work Tales in Multifamily Maintenance. No matter how long you've been in our industry or what position you have at your company or your community, everyone has a maintenance tale to tell. If you like this episode, please like, comment, subscribe, and follow to this podcast. Go to www.multifamilymedianetwork.com and leave me a voice message or share your information, and we can tell your tale together on a future episode. Please join the MMN newsletter for upcoming industry podcasts, thought pieces, and sponsorship opportunities. Our stories all connect us. See you for the next chapter.